Carl Jung once said, "To know who a person truly is, don't look at what they say. Look at what they cannot hide." We often think we understand other people. We observe their actions, listen to their words, and judge how they treat others. But Jung discovered that a human being is not defined by what they show, but by what slips through when they can no longer control themselves. He said that by looking at just two small things, we can see through every mask and touch the real core of a person. No complex analysis, no mind reading. Just the sensitivity to notice the two cracks in human psychology. Imagine you're sitting in front of someone close to you, a friend, a lover, or a co-worker. Everything about them seems fine. Their words are polite, and their smile is appropriate. But somewhere, something feels out of rhythm. A slightly diverted gaze, a laugh that doesn't quite match the emotion, and your intuition whispers, something is off. That moment is the first door opening, where you stop seeing just the person in front of you and begin to glimpse the psychological world beneath the mask they and you wear every day. And that is the starting point of what Jung called awakening. Not awakening from others, but awakening from the illusion you have about yourself. After that first subtle intuition taps on your mind, that feeling of something is off when you look at someone, Jung introduces us to a deeper layer of the psyche known as the persona, which is the mask that everyone must wear to survive in this world. From a very young age, we were taught how to become right, to be obedient in order to be loved. We were taught to be good in order to receive praise. Being strong is crucial for earning respect. Every compliment, every approving gaze, and every nod from others sculpted the first shape of the mask we carry. Jung said, "Persona is the part of the ego that the world accepts. It is like the social skin wrapped around our soul. We need it to fit in, to be recognized, and to avoid feeling out of place. But at the same time, it is also what prevents us from meeting our true self. We learn to smile even when we are exhausted. We learn to say, 'I'm fine,' when our soul is cracking. We learn to display confidence, while inside, we are simply afraid of being left behind. And gradually, we no longer know where the performance ends and where we begin. But Jung understood, this mask is not a crime. It is the mind's way of protecting itself from the judging eyes of the world. The issue begins when we start believing that the mask is who we are. That is when the soul begins to suffocate. This is because the soul lacks the ability to perform. It only knows how to feel, whether fragile, weak, or radiant. And every time we try to be perfect, the unconscious quietly knocks on the persona's wall, wanting to break free, wanting to be seen. Eventually, under the weight of life, the mask we built with logic and fear will crack. It doesn't take a major event. Occasionally, it's just a sentence, a silence, or a glance that makes us feel exposed. In that moment, we can no longer control our expression, our voice, or our actions. And strangely, it is in that moment that others finally see who we really are. Jung called this the crack in the persona, the place where the real self begins to breathe through the false one. We fear that moment, but it is actually the first doorway back to our essence. So if there comes a time when you feel you can't stay composed like usual, don't rush to feel ashamed. You may not be getting weaker, but your soul is asking to be alive again. And this is the turning point of the journey Jung guides us through. After seeing the mask, he invites us to look deeper into what lies beneath it, the shadow. After Jung helps us see the mask we use to survive, he doesn't stop there. Because beneath that mask, there is always a shadow, and it is in that darkness that our soul is locked away, quietly searching for a way to be seen, Jung called it the shadow, not the bad part of a person, but the part we have not dared acknowledge. And to see that shadow, Jung pointed us toward a basic path. Look at the people we hate the most, because what triggers us most intensely in others is often what we are trying hardest to hide within ourselves. Imagine you know someone like David. He is principled, ethical, straightforward, and proud of his honesty. But at the office, there's a coworker named Marcus, charming, open, and adept at making others feel comfortable. Marcus is well-liked and praised, and this irritates David. Every time Marcus receives compliments, David frowns. He tells someone, "He's so fake, nothing sincere about him." At first glance, it sounds like David is simply being observant. But Jung would smile and say, "No, David, you're just seeing the part of yourself you're afraid to accept." Because the truth is, David also wants to be open, to be liked, but in his belief system, that equals being dishonest. So he buries that desire deep inside and labels it with disdain. Fake. Jung wrote, "People cannot change anything until they accept it. Judgment does not liberate, it only binds." Every time David criticizes Marcus, he unknowingly builds another wall between himself and the part of his soul he never allowed to live. And the strange thing is, the more we reject our shadow, the harder it tries to return. Not only through other people, but also through events and relationships, as if life were trying to tell us, that part is still yours and you cannot move on until you face it. Jung called this phenomenon unconscious projection. When we hate someone, we are not truly hating them. We are hating the version of ourselves we cannot yet accept. And it's not only negative emotions, even admiration is a form of projection. When we look at someone and say, "She is so confident, he is so free," it is our soul whispering, "I have that too, but I haven't dared to live it." The shadow, therefore, is not something to destroy. It is light that has not yet been awakened. It is potentially covered in dust, a missing puzzle piece left behind. All we need to do is pause, observe, and ask, what is this strong reaction towards someone else saying something about me? And the darkness begins to dissolve. Let the truth come forward. Jung once said, "When we make the darkness conscious, it no longer controls us." And that is the first shift of awakening, from seeing others to seeing ourselves. But Jung discovered an even deeper layer, because it's not only our shadow that reveals itself through judgment, our false self also exposes itself. In the moments when we no longer have time to maintain the performance. In the next part, we will step into the second door of truth, what Jung called mask maintenance, where he shows us that a person's true self does not appear when they are prepared, but when they no longer have time to prepare at all. If the shadow shows us what we are hiding, then mask maintenance, the act of maintaining the mask, shows us what we fear losing. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But most of us do not live that way. We do not live to be real. We live to be safe. We find safety in the admiration of others, safe in the image of, "I am a trustworthy person, I am strong, I am professional." And we spend most of our life's energy maintaining that image. Jung called this mask maintenance a subtle mechanism in which we must constantly perform the right role so the mask does not fall off. But eventually, a moment comes when life pushes us into a situation where the mask can no longer withstand the pressure. Imagine a woman named Sarah. She is a marketing director, always praised as calm and professional, never losing control. For years, that image has become her personal brand. Then one day, in an important meeting, a major client stands up and criticizes her strategy, saying it is naive and uncreative. Just one sentence. And everything inside Sarah changes. Her voice sharpens. She interrupts others, blames her team, and tries everything to prove she is right. In a few short seconds, the calm woman disappears. Only a frightened soul remains, terrified of feeling exposed. That moment, Jung called it the cracking of the persona. When the mask can no longer cover, the real self appears. Not to shame us, but to remind us that behind that calm exterior is a child who once feared criticism. Jung wrote, "The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to endure legitimate suffering." Sarah is not wrong. She simply has not learned to accept her imperfections. And to avoid that pain, she reacts instead of reflects. If you pay attention, you will see this everywhere. When someone gets criticized and suddenly explodes, it is not because they are angry at you. It is because you have accidentally touched a deep wound inside them. Those wounds are the leak points of the mask, and every time it leaks, we get a glimpse of the true nature of both theirs and ours. A psychologically mature person is not someone who no longer reacts, but someone who recognizes where their reaction comes from. They do not try to maintain an image. They do not need to appear calm. They are simply honest with their emotions, without letting those emotions control their actions. So the next time you see someone losing their composure, don't rush to judge. It might be the very moment their real self appears for the first time after years of being hidden. And if it happens to you, don't be afraid. It is not a collapse. It is an opening. Jung once said, "The real in us can only appear when the false begins to crack, and it's through those cracks that the first light of awareness begins to enter." In the next part, we will go deeper. Why these cracks so accurately reveal human nature, and why Jung believed that the moments we lose our curated image are actually the moments our soul begins to find its way back to itself. After Jung pointed out the first two doors, shadow mapping and mask maintenance, he went even deeper. Why can these small, almost invisible phenomena expose the true nature of a person so accurately? The answer lies in the psychological structure Jung called the architecture of the soul. Imagine the human mind as a multi-story building. The conscious mind is the upper floor, where we know our thoughts, words, and actions. But the lower floor, the unconscious, is where the most powerful forces reside. The fear of rejection, the desire for love, the feeling of inadequacy, and the memories we think we forgot. When someone tries to appear perfect, they are using the conscious mind to shield the unconscious. But the unconscious cannot be locked away forever. It finds ways to leak out through words, glances, gestures, and especially through reactions in moments of lost control. That is why Jung said, "We are not defined by our behavior in the light, but by how we confront our darkness." When David criticizes Marcus for being fake, it is not just judgment, it is the exposure of his shadow. When Sarah becomes defensive under criticism, it is not just an impulsive reaction, it reflects the fear of her unconscious mind. And the fascinating thing is, no matter how well we hide, the unconscious still finds a way to be seen. Like water seeking cracks in stone, the soul seeks a path back through the fractures in the mask we wear. That is why Jung called these two phenomena the two leak points of the unconscious. They never lie. Because no one can control their unconscious when their deepest fear has been touched. And if you pay close attention, you will notice. A truly confident person does not need to prove they are right. A truly strong person does not need to appear invulnerable. A truly peaceful person does not waver under the gaze of others. In contrast, excessive reactions, whether anger, contempt, or fear, is exactly where true nature begins to reveal itself. That is why Jung said, "When we judge others, we reveal ourselves, and when we lose our composure, we are allowing the unhealed part of us to speak in place of reason." Therefore, if you want to understand someone deeply, don't look only at how they behave when admired. Look at them when they are challenged, and if you want to understand yourself, observe the moments when you feel most uncomfortable, most triggered. That is the moment when your unconscious mind is trying to get your attention, inviting you to return to yourself. What Jung wanted us to learn is not how to expose others, but how to read the lesson hidden in each of our reactions. Because when we see clearly the motives behind our anger and judgments, we are no longer controlled by them. We begin choosing our responses consciously instead of letting instinct choose for us. And that is the first moment of true awareness. In the next part, Jung leads us to the final test of truth, whereas it is no longer about observing others, but confronting ourselves. When someone unintentionally reflects the part of our shadow that we try hardest to hide, will we choose defensiveness or awakening? At this point, you already understand. The shadow reveals itself through judgment, and the true self appears when the mask cracks. But Jung went even further. He discovered a silent test, a moment that can reveal everything about a person's true nature. He called it the integration test. This process is known as the integration test, and it happens whenever someone unintentionally shines a light on the aspect of yourself that you prefer to ignore. Recall the story of David, the man who insisted Marcus was fake. Imagine someone gently asking him, "David, have you ever wished you could be as charming and well-liked as Marcus?" Just one simple question. But in that second, the ego trembles, because it touches the psychological blind spot, the place David has always avoided. If David immediately replies, "Are you saying I'm fake? I'm nothing like him. I'm honest. He isn't." That is defensiveness. He isn't listening. He's only protecting the image. He has worked so hard to maintain it. This is the type of person Jung called the unconscious type, someone who cannot yet see their own subconscious. But if David pauses for a moment and responds, "Maybe, yes, I do wish I could be more outgoing, but I'm afraid if I try, people will think I'm not genuine." Then, in that moment, David begins to see himself. Without anyone convincing him, he has stepped into the space of awakening. Jung said, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a peace that cannot be shaken." That peace does not come from being right, but from having the courage to admit that we are both right and wrong, both light and dark, and both strong and afraid. And only when we can say, "Yes, that part is me too," does integration begin. This test does not happen in a therapy room. It happens everywhere. When your partner gives you feedback, when a coworker makes you feel underestimated, or when a casual remark touches a part of you, you always avoid mentioning. At that moment, you have two choices: react to protect your image, or stay still long enough to understand where that reaction comes from. The defensive person will always blame, attack, or withdraw. They remain controlled by the unconscious. But the awakened person is different. They can feel the discomfort rising, but they choose to stay, to look inward. Jung called this experience the shift from reaction to awareness. This small moment marks the boundary between ignorance and freedom. And from that moment on, a person begins to truly mature, no longer living to prove anything, no longer needing to be right, but wanting to understand. Understand themselves, understand others, and accept that every uncomfortable conversation, every piece of feedback that bruises the ego, is an honest mirror of the soul. Jung once said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And once you learn to welcome these moments of reflection, you no longer fear people seeing through you." This is because you have already gained insight into yourself. In the next part, Jung will guide you toward the practice. Where do we learn to use this understanding not to analyze or judge, but to heal, and to see others as mirrors that help us become more whole? After Jung's final test, you may be wondering, so what is the point of understanding all of this? Does seeing the truth of human nature make us wiser? Or does it simply make us colder toward the world? Jung would say, if understanding does not lead to compassion, then it is not true understanding. Because the final purpose of reading human psychology is not to judge, control, or become superior. It is to see yourself in others, in love. If you truly listen, you will notice that every time the person you love criticizes someone, they are actually speaking about the part of themselves that has not been healed. When they say, "I hate weak people," it may be the voice of their inner child, the one who was forced to be strong too early. Instead of reacting, you can gently ask, "Have you ever felt that you were once that weak too?" That question is not meant to expose them, but to open a space where both of you can be seen and accepted, without judgment. Love then stops being a negotiation between two egos and becomes a meeting between two souls learned to understand themselves. At work, observe your colleagues, your boss, or your employees. Those who react fiercely to feedback often carry a deep fear of belittlement. People who react fiercely to feedback often harbor a deep fear of belittlement. Those who always want to control everything are often the ones who once lived in uncertainty. Instead of responding with tension, try observing with awareness. What in them is needing protection so desperately? When you shift your perspective, conflicts become less sharp, and conversations begin to feel more genuine. No more, "I win, you lose," only, "We are learning to understand ourselves." In parenting, Jung once wrote, "A child does not listen to what you teach, it watches how you live." When your child says, "I hate him, he's fake," don't rush to tell them to be more forgiving. Ask, "Why do you hate that? Have you ever felt like that too?" By doing so, you are teaching your child the most important lesson in life: to see themselves in others. Finally, the practice of awareness. Jung developed a simple but transformative practice called the shadow journal. It's basic. Whenever someone makes you uncomfortable, write it down, then ask, what part of me are they reflecting? What do I fear when I see this behavior? Do not write to judge, write to see. Seeing is the first step towards healing. And if you do this long enough, you will realize the person who irritates you the most is the one helping you understand yourself the deepest. The one who hurts you the most is the one forcing you to grow. The messy relationships are actually the soul's lessons in disguise. Then you will stop asking, "Why are they like this?" and begin asking, "What is this teaching me about myself?" This is how Jung teaches us to shift from judgment to awareness. And once you reach that point, you do not only understand others better, you also begin to see the light within yourself. In the next part, Jung will warn about something important, that there is a dark side within the very act of understanding people, where knowledge can be turned into power, and a student of psychology can unknowingly become a manipulator. Part 8 will be a reminder to prevent you from falling into that trap. After learning to observe people through Jung's eyes, it becomes very easy to fall into a dangerous trap, a trap so subtle that you don't even realize you've walked into it. It is the moment when psychological knowledge becomes a tool for judgment instead of understanding. Jung once warned, "When you illuminate the darkness of others, ensure that light is not coming from arrogance." Because once a person gains the ability to read others, it is easy to slip into the illusion that they are above, more awakened and more perceptive. And in that exact moment, the ego, the very thing you thought you transcended quietly, returns wearing a new mask called the enlightened one. 1. When understanding becomes a tool of power, you begin to look at someone and think, "She's being defensive. He's projecting his shadow. This person hasn't transcended their ego." It sounds insightful, but beneath it, it is still a form of judgment. You're no longer seeing them with the eyes of compassion, but with the gaze of someone standing above. You think you are analyzing, but you are actually protecting your ego with knowledge. You are no longer learning to understand. You are learning to prove that you already understand. Jung called this type of person a shadow hunter, someone who hunts for shadows in others to avoid facing their own. 2. When knowledge stops being paired with love. Understanding without compassion is like a lamp that shines on others but never shines back on itself. You may see through someone, but instead of healing them, you make them shrink, defend themselves, and fear being analyzed. This is the moment when knowledge becomes a weapon. Jung wrote, "The healthy person does not torture others. Those who hurt others are themselves hurt souls." If you truly understand this, you will never use your insight to expose others, because everyone is simply trying to survive, in the only way they know how clumsy, mistaken, or wounded as they may be. 3. When you learn to see with the heart. True awakening is not found in seeing more, but in seeing without judgment. When someone reveals their shadow, the unawakened person reacts, the knowledgeable person analyzes. But the truly awakened person remains silent and compassionate, because they know. Behind every behavior is a fear. Behind every need for control is a wound. Behind every anger is a soul longing to be understood. 4. Awakening is not being above, but seeing yourself in others. True understanding never separates you from humanity. It brings you closer, because you begin to realize that everything you see in others, good or bad, has once existed in you. And then, instead of saying, "They are still unconscious," you gently smile. I was once like that too. To understand people but not love them, that is not enlightenment. It is arrogance disguised as awakening, because the true purpose of insight is not to expose others, but to soften your gaze. In the next part, Jung will open the deepest layer of this journey. When you realize that everyone around you is a mirror, reflect your own soul. No more me and them, only one shared stream of consciousness, learning to become whole. After Jung warns about the trap of arrogant understanding, he leads us to one final truth, a place where every analysis, every insight, every observation returns to one point, yourself. Because the clearer you see others, the more you begin to realize every person you meet is a mirror reflecting your own soul. Have you ever met someone who annoys you simply by existing? They don't have to say anything wrong. They don't have to do anything harmful. Just their presence makes you tighten inside. Jung would say, That is not about them, that is about you. Because humans are only triggered by what already exists within them. If someone boastfully irritates you, perhaps there's a part of you that was once told, "Don't show off." If you dislike overly confident people, perhaps you were raised to believe humility is the only way to be loved. If overly sensitive people frustrate you, perhaps you once learned to suppress your own emotions. The outer world serves merely as a screen. The actual movie is always playing inside you. Projection doesn't only happen with the shadow. Jung called this positive projection. When we place onto others the qualities we haven't yet dared to admit that we also possess it. The person you admire for being creative, free, or courageous is simply living the part of you that you once abandoned. You admire them, not because they have something you don't, but because they dare to live fully with the part you are still holding back. When you understand this, admiration stops being comparison and becomes inspiration, because you realize everything you see in others, good or bad, is a piece of the map leading you back to yourself. Jung wrote, "Every encounter with another person is an opportunity to learn something about yourself. If you pay attention, you will notice every person activates something in you. A reaction, a memory, a fear, or a dormant potential. The one who hurts you teaches you boundaries. The one who makes you jealous reveals what you truly desire. The one who angers you exposes what you cannot yet accept. And the one who brings you peace is the reflection of the part of you that is already reconciled with yourself." Life, then, is no longer a place to understand others, but a training ground for the soul where every collision is a lesson in the evolution of consciousness. When you realize everyone is a mirror, you stop blaming them, and you also stop blaming yourself. You no longer ask, "Why are they doing this to me?" Instead, you ask, "What is this reaction teaching me about myself?" You no longer try to fix anyone, because you understand that everyone is living at the level of consciousness they currently have. You just observe and understand. And when you truly understand, your heart grows quiet, because there's nothing left to resist, nothing left to win or lose. This is the mirror effect Jung spoke of. When you are awake enough to see the world as a reflection of your own inner landscape, every relationship becomes a shared journey of soul growth. No one is above or below. There are only souls evolving, each at their own rhythm. And in that moment, you no longer want to read people. You simply want to be present, because you understand the person in front of you did not come to be analyzed. They arrived to help you understand yourself. In the final part, Jung will guide us into the ultimate stillness of this journey, a place where you no longer need to understand others or even analyze yourself, because everything is already merged into one. In this state, you no longer need to strive to become anything, and only need to return to live authentically as yourself. And then, after all the layers of analysis, after you have seen the mask, persona, faced the shadow, moved beyond your defensive reactions, and realized that every person is merely a mirror reflecting back to you, Jung leads us to the final destination: stillness. Not the silence of the mind, but the quiet of a soul that has stopped resisting. There is a strange moment on this journey, when you suddenly realize you no longer need to be the knowledgeable one, no longer need to analyze correctly, no longer need to be more awakened than anyone else. Because true awakening doesn't come with knowing more, but from judging less. You no longer need to hide your shadow. Because you now understand it, it does not make you lesser, it only makes you human. You no longer need to maintain the mask, because you have realized Every role is meaningless if the soul beneath it is still abandoned, and in that moment, a lightness washes over you. When you realize you no longer need to become anyone, you only need to be yourself, whole, honest, and quiet. You no longer need to show strength, because you are brave enough to say, "I'm tired." You no longer need to appear wise, because you are humble enough to say, "I don't know." And you no longer need to prove you're good, because you understand the human essence is already whole, only temporarily forgotten. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." To be perfect is false, to be whole is true, because in wholeness there is both light and shadow, both love and limitation, both wounds and healing exist in wholeness. And you no longer need to choose one side to live with. When you accept yourself, you begin giving others permission to do the same. You no longer force anyone to understand, you simply show up. And that presence alone is enough to make others feel safe. People begin lowering their defenses because they can sense you are not trying to analyze them. You are simply listening with your whole heart. Jung called this a conscious relationship. A relationship where two souls meet, not to fix each other, but to reflect, awaken, and become more authentic together. And at that point, you no longer need knowledge to read others, because your stillness itself has become the mirror that illuminates everything. In the end, Jung's journey is not about knowing, it is about seeing. It involves observing your fear without reacting to it. Observing your anger without passing judgment on it is crucial. Observing the shadow of another person while maintaining your compassion is crucial. Because when you truly see, everything else dissolves on its own. You don't have to force forgiveness, you naturally forgive. You don't have to push yourself to let go. You naturally let go. You don't have to change others, you naturally change yourself. And that is when awareness stops being something to achieve and becomes a state of being. Jung wrote, "We do not heal anything, we simply learn to let it go." Letting go does not mean forgetting, it means accepting everything that has ever happened, was part of the journey that brought you back to yourself. Because in the end, every person you've met, every wound you've endured, every moment made you want to give up, were all pieces of your awakening. And suddenly, you understand. There is no them and me, no light and dark, no right and wrong. Only consciousness can learn to recognize itself through countless forms. So when you no longer need to become anyone, you finally begin to live, not in roles, not in efforts to prove, but in a pure presence where you simply breathe and know that each breath is enough proof that you are living true to yourself. And then, as Jung said, when you bring your darkness into the light, you do not only awaken, you become a light for others. Because in the end, awakening is not a journey of seeking, but a journey of returning to the true self, to the whole soul, to the stillness from which all understanding, all love, and all healing arise.